Close your eyes. Feel the cool breath of night air on your face heavy with the scent of wet cedar, river mist, and faint wood smoke drifting between rooftops. It is midnight in Edo, the great wooden city that would one day become Tokyo. Rain tonight is not harsh, but soft and steady, each drop tapping on tiled eaves and gathering in small streams that run beside the cobblestones. In narrow alleys, water pools and stone gutters worn smooth by 1,000 nights like this. Listen. The city speaks even in sleep, the distant clack of geta sandals, a merchant's wooden sign creaking in the breeze, a paper lantern swaying, its flame dancing behind thin rice paper. Behind those shōji screens, a family settles onto straw futons. The tatami mats smell faintly of fresh rush grass, mixed with lingering incense burned at sunset prayers. Somewhere far off, a dog barks twice, then silence, swallowed by the hush of falling rain. Tonight, let me guide you through Edo, as it truly was not the city of history books, but of shadows and breathed, whispered confessions. A city where danger and beauty shared the same narrow street, separated only by the width of a sliding door. Breathe slowly. Feel your shoulders loosen, as though the weight of the day drips away like rainwater from an old tiled roof. And follow me now across the wet stones of Nihonbashi, the great bridge at Edo's heart. The cypress planks beneath your sandals are damp, cool to the touch. Your breath rises in faint white puffs, carried away by the breeze from the Sumida River. Lanterns hang at intervals, their light warm and golden, making the raindrops on your sleeve glisten like tiny beads of amber. Listen closely. A porter's wooden yoke creaks under its load. Somewhere, the faint murmur of two fishermen gambling by candlelight under the bridge. Smell the river itself, a mix of wet stone, old timber, and distant brine from the bay. Past the bridge, merchant stalls stand silent, wooden shutters latched. But in a narrow doorway, a brazier still glows red. Its smoky warmth drifts into the street, carrying the scent of burning charcoal and roasted eel skin. Notice how the lantern light pools on wet cobbles, then blurs into ripples when the breeze stirs the flames. At your feet, small paper talismans cling to the stone charms for luck, fallen from pockets earlier in the day. Above, the tiled roofs glisten black, shedding water into bamboo gutters that gurgle softly in the quiet. And everywhere, the rain's steady hush, a constant heartbeat for the city. We step beyond Nihonbashi into Honsho, where Edo's wealth sleeps behind wooden facades. The air here feels closer, held between rows of shopfronts built barely an arm's span apart. Smell freshly planed cedar, stored rice, and old tatami straw still damp from the day's humidity. The stones are worn smooth, slick with rain, each step careful, deliberate. In the distance, you hear a shutter bang open, then close, its iron ring handle clanging softly. A thin stream of smoke drifts from the eaves of a dye shop. The night apprentice, boiling indigo, his silhouette barely visible in the lantern glow. Your fingers brush the wooden post of a Noren curtain, its cloth cool and heavy with rain. Beyond it, laughter flickers, then fades, the last customers lingering over cups of warm rice wine. A lone fire watcher passes, short jacket, straw sandals slick with mud. His staff taps gently on the stones, a dry rhythmic sound. In the wet night, his voice low, almost melodic, blending with the hiss of falling rain. As he passes, you catch the faint scent of camellia oil used to weatherproof his cloak. We walk deeper into Honsho, where wealth sleeps behind sliding doors of cypress wood and lattice screens. A few lanterns remain lit inside, small orange pools of light in a sea of darkness. Listen. A low voice recites accounts. A child coughs. Then silence returns. The air smells of wet timber and the ashes of charcoal braziers now fading to gray. Water trickles in narrow stone channels along the street, guiding rain away from shopfronts. At a corner, an old stone well waits, its rope coiled neatly on the wet cover. They say on moonless nights, lonely spirits gather by such wells, drawn to water's silent depths. Beyond, a Norran curtain sways gently, revealing the glow of an all-night tea-house. Two figures sit close, cups before them, words spoken softly, meant for no other ears. We pass quietly, our footsteps slow and measured, respectful of secrets the city keeps at night. The main road widens now, paved with larger stones. Ahead, more lanterns appear, hung from tall wooden gates painted a faded vermilion. The air feels different, warmer, touched by incense. Somewhere a shamisen plays, its strings plucked in a tune, older than memory. Laughter drifts on the breeze, not loud, but light, like falling petals. The rain here feels softer, broken by tiled eaves and paper awnings stretched over shop fronts. These are the outer streets of the Yoshiwara, Edo's pleasure district. By day, busy with traders and apprentices delivering fresh water, firewood, and folded silks. By night, a floating world of courtesans, musicians, and poets, a place apart from ordinary life. Before we enter, pause and look back. The merchant quarter sleeps, guarded by fire watchers and temple bells. Ahead, the Yoshiwara wakes, even in rain, waiting for those who seek its shadows and lantern light. We pass beneath a wooden gate, its paint worn by seasons of rain and sun. Lanterns sway gently overhead, each marked with the crest of a tea-house or brothel. The night feels warmer here, scented with burned incense, sweet sake, and the faint perfume of camellia oil. This is the Yoshiwara, Edo's most famous pleasure quarter. Enclosed by high earthen walls and guarded gates, it was a city within the city, a floating world where time, duty, and sorrow dissolved under lantern light. To some, it was a paradise of music, dance, and conversation. To others, a gilded prison, of debt and longing. But to all, it was a world apart, one that glittered brightest when the rest of Edo slept. Look around. Wide streets paved with flat stones, wet with evening rain that reflects 100 points of light. Here the air hums with quiet life, low laughter behind screens, the soft clink of porcelain cups, the scrape of shamisen strings, tuning for the next song. Along these streets, wooden facades glow with rows of paper lanterns, each lantern painted with swirling characters, names of famous courtesans, tea houses, or kabuki actors who once visited these halls. The rain has eased to a fine mist, turning the night into something softer, dreamlike. In a doorway, a woman adjusts her hairpin, its lacquer glinting briefly before she vanishes behind Norran curtains. Somewhere beyond, the gentle rise and fall of a koto accompanies whispered conversation. Within these walls, courtesans walked like living works of art, layers of silk robes embroidered with cranes, pine trees and flowing rivers, heavy hair, dressed with tortoiseshell combs and delicate silver ornaments. They moved slowly, every step deliberate, every gesture trained to suggest grace and mystery. Their voices, when heard, were soft yet practiced, laughter shaped by years of watching, listening, and becoming what each visitor wished to see. Many came not for a single night of passion, but to buy moments of illusion. A courtesan's undivided attention, a poem whispered across lacquered cups, the comforting lie that someone truly understood them. Outside the tea houses, men gathered, faces half hidden by broad straw hats. Some wealthy merchants fresh from counting coin, others low samurai seeking to forget duty's weight. A few would spend small fortunes, leaving at dawn poorer, yet strangely lighter. The Yoshiwara was a place of masks. Behind painted faces lay debts, behind smiles lay exhaustion, and behind poetry lay resignation. Yet beauty blossomed here. Kabuki scripts, verses of haiku, songs that outlived the women who first sang them. Past midnight, the laughter softens. Lantern flames burn lower, shadows lengthen on wet stones. A courtesan steps briefly into the night air, kimono hem brushing rain-slicked pavement. Her gaze distant, lips pale from sake and recited lines. The street feels quieter now. Only the hush of the night rain, a faint drip from tiled eaves, and the soft shuffle of wooden sandals heading home. Somewhere behind a curtained window, a lover's quarrel mutters into silence. In another room, soft laughter defies the hour. Time here is elastic. Hours slip by unnoticed, measured only by candles that burn low, and the toll of distant temple bells. The Yoshiwara birthed legends whispered across Edo, stories of courtesans whose beauty sparked duels, of secret love poems hidden under tatami mats, of women who, wronged by fate, returned as shadows in moonlit alleys. Some spoke of a certain mirror, cracked but still hanging in a closed tea house. They said it showed not the face you wore, but the sorrow you hid. In rain-soaked corners, night watchmen would pause, bow silently toward darkened windows, a small prayer for those still awake inside. As dawn nears, the quarter softens further. Music fades to a last plucked note. Cups are emptied. Screens slide closed. Courtesans slip away to bathe and undress layers of silk. Faces pale once more, hair loosened from heavy combs. Outside, rainwater gathers in quiet pools, broken only by the ripple of a falling petal or the faint echo of departing footsteps. Beyond the gates, Edo itself still sleeps, unaware of laughter and heartbreak contained within these walls. And now, as lanterns dim, we too turn from the floating world, leaving its shadows and silk behind. We step away from the lantern glow of Yoshiwara. The air cools again, the streets narrow, the mist thicker, as if the city itself wishes to hide what happens here at night. Behind us, laughter fades. Ahead, silence waits, broken only by the rustle of bamboo leaves and the occasional cry of a night bird. This is where Edo belonged not to merchants or poets, but to those who walked with blades, sworn samurai, restless ronin, and silent watchers of the shogun. In daytime, samurai stood proud. 2 swords at their hip, robes marked with family crest. At night, some kept those swords close under travel cloaks. Others carried only a hidden blade, quicker to draw, easier to conceal. Under lantern light, steel caught a cold glint, a quiet reminder of life and death, balanced on a thumb's width of sharpened iron. Yet most duels never began. The threat of the blade, the weight of trained silence, kept men apart more than steel ever drawn. Still, there were nights when pride, drink, or whispered insult turned silence into sudden violence. Not all samurai served openly. Edo hid its silent watchers, the Onmitsu and Metsuk, spies and inspectors tasked with guarding the peace. Dressed as merchants, monks, or even drunks in back alley taverns, they listened for rumors of rebellion, smuggling, or plots whispered too boldly over rice wine. Their loyalty lay not to a single lord, but to the city's fragile balance. Their work rarely known, their faces rarely remembered, and that was as it should be. Some said a single careless word in the wrong tea house could echo all the way to Edo Castle by sunrise. The city's peace, like its lanterns, depended on watchful eyes no one could see. Beyond the main roads, Edo's alleys curled into quiet corners, places where men of all ranks sat shoulder to shoulder over small cups of hot rice wine. The floors smelled of old tatami and spilled tea. Walls were paper-thin, and shadows gathered in corners. Here, ronin waited for work, gamblers sought luck, and spies listened with lowered gaze. The air hung heavy with wood smoke and the whiff of cheap sake. Laughter never rose above a murmur, and every man watched the door. Outside, a breeze stirred Norin curtains. Rain dripped gently from eaves, filling cracked stone basins. Even in sleep, Edo was never truly blind. From temple priests who kept silent records of confessions, to street children who carried rumors like sparrows carry straw, every eye and ear played its part. The shogun's rule depended not on constant violence, but on a shared understanding. The city must keep its own order or suffer together. And so, even the drunkest gambler lowered his voice near certain corners. Even the boldest ronin stepped aside for patrol lanterns. At night, pride walked the streets, but so did fear, each keeping the other in check. Listen. There were stories of lone swordsmen challenged in moonlit courtyards, where bamboo leaves fell silently on blood-wet stones. Of ronin who vanished after spilling the wrong man's blood, their names lost, but footsteps still whispered about in back alleys. Of blades so sharp, they cut not only flesh, but rumor itself, leaving silence behind. Whether truth or legend, such stories drifted on Edo's night breeze, as soft and unsettling as a passing shadow. As night stretched thin, the last patrol passed, straw sandals hushing over wet stones, lanterns swinging gently. The wind shifted. Temple bells far off marked the hour when shadows shorten, and light prepares to return. Swords slid back into scabbards. Words unsaid stayed behind paper walls. The city's peace, fragile as rice paper, had held through another night. And now, as dawn threatened the first gray light, even the silent watchers turned toward home, carrying secrets that would never be spoken. Night in Edo was never only about living souls. The city's streets carried stories, stories repeated in tea houses, whispered by lantern light, or scribbled in the margins of cheap woodblock prints. Some stories came from lonely alleys, others from great mansions where even silk screens could not keep sorrow out. In a city built of wood and shadow, the past never stayed buried for long. There is a well behind an abandoned merchant house in Hansho. By day, moss creeps down its stone rim. Dragonflies hover above still water. But on moonless nights, neighbors say you can hear soft weeping rising from its depths. Some claim to see pale fingers on the mossy stones, slipping back when lantern light approaches. They say it is the spirit of a maid, wronged by her master, whose sorrow clung to the water long after her name was forgotten. Whether true or not, no child plays near that well. Further west, near the edge of the samurai district, stands a burned-out gate, all that remains of a grand mansion once owned by a powerful retainer. Locals whisper that after a betrayal, the lord's wife took her life within those walls. On certain nights, passing guards hear soft footsteps across empty tatami, or glimpse a woman in white between charred pillars. The scent of burned incense lingers strongest just before dawn, though no incense has been lit there for years. Deep inside the pleasure quarter lies a tea house that rarely opens its doors. Inside hangs an old mirror, its silver backing cracked into branching lines. Some say if you look into it at night, it does not show your face, but the sorrow you carry. A few courtesans once dared to look, and afterward refused to speak of what they saw. The mirror still hangs there, gathering dust and rumor in equal measure. Rain and ghosts walk together in Edo stories. Old priests taught that water holds memory, and the sadness of those lost could rise again on damp nights. Travelers spoke of figures glimpsed beneath umbrellas, drifting through mist, faces hidden, footsteps leaving no mark, or of faint sobbing outside closed screens, fading as quickly as it came. No matter how crowded the city, these stories reminded people, some walk beside us unseen. The power of Edo's ghosts was not only in fright, but in reminder. A careless act, a broken promise, a word spoken in anger could echo beyond death. Such stories bound neighbors together, taught kindness and caution, for fear that the wronged might return, and sorrow take shape under moonlight. Even the boldest samurai offered silent prayers at roadside shrines. Even the busiest merchant left coins for temple candles. Edo's living and dead shared the same narrow streets, each shaping the other's story. As the night thins toward dawn, these whispers fade. The wind shifts, the mist lifts slightly. Wooden roofs gleam wet under the first gray light. The stories remain, hidden behind sliding doors, waiting for another night when the rain falls soft and long. And now we too step away, leaving behind wells, walls, and cracked mirrors, carrying only the hush of remembered voices. Edo wakes, but some shadows linger, unseen by morning eyes. The sky softens from black to a pale gray, tinged faintly with rose. Lanterns burn low, their light outshone by the slow, certain arrival of day. Rain has stopped, but droplets cling to eaves and bamboo leaves, catching morning light like beads of glass. Streets once hushed under night secrets now fill with quiet purpose. Footsteps quicken, shutters slide open. Voices rise, soft but sure. We return to Nihonbashi, the bridge of Japan, where merchants, porters, and travelers gather even before sunrise. Wooden carts rattle over damp stones, pulled by men whose breath still shows in the cool air. The smell of steaming rice, pickled daikon, and miso soup drifts from roadside stalls. A mother scolds a sleepy child. A merchant tightens the cord around his goods. A fishmonger calls out the morning's catch. The bridge itself glistens from the night's rain, reflecting hints of morning gold on wet cypress beams. Near the market stands a small temple, its tiled roof black against the brightening sky. Smoke rises from a brazier of burning incense, curling into the morning air. A line of townsfolk waits quietly, heads bowed, coins in hand. A monk, robes still damp at the hem, strikes a bronze bell. A soft, low sound that seems to ripple through the waking city. The smell of incense mingles with the morning breeze, carrying prayers both spoken and unspoken. Some pray for profit, others for health, all for the day to pass without disaster. Stalls open, canvas awnings rolled back. Shopkeepers sweep away last night's rainwater. Wooden buckets filled with fresh fish splash cold water onto stone. Cloth merchants unfold bolts of indigo and crimson, patterns dancing briefly in dawn light. Potters place new bowls and cups on display, their glazed surfaces still cool from early morning firing. Over everything drifts the rhythmic call of sellers, voices neither loud nor harsh, blending into a chorus that announces the city's return to life. The air carries smells of wet earth, straw mats drying in the sun, and fresh charcoal catching flame. Somewhere, a rooster crows once, sharp and insistent. Children run errands with baskets larger than their arms. Sandals slap softly against damp stones. Dogs stretch, shake off water from tiled porches. Sparrows dart among roof beams, chattering at the new day. The quiet of night does not vanish. It folds itself into corners, replaced by the measured, patient noise of work. In samurai residences, gates open slowly. Retainers sweep courtyards, careful to leave no fallen leaf. In merchant houses, ledgers from the day before are checked by lantern light, even as the sun climbs. Women roll up futons, fold them neatly, and set rice pots to steam. Daily life begins not with a rush, but with ritual, the same gestures repeated, reassuring in their order. By mid-morning, Edo hums gently. Carts creak, temple bells toll, traders call out wares. The air warms. Puddles shrink, leaving faint patterns on the stone. The secrets of night slip back behind shōji screens, replaced by sunlight and trade. Yet somewhere, stories told in the dark still echo in quiet minds, carried like faint perfume through the noise of the day. Edo, vast yet close, grand yet humble, lives again under the pale blue sky. And so, our walk draws to an end, but the city's story continues, written every dawn in the sound of sandals on wet stone and prayers rising with incense smoke. Thank you for walking beside me, through rain and lantern light, shadow and sunrise, into the heart of old Edo. May the memory of these quiet streets stay with you long after the last bell fades. And so we come to the end of our walk through the night and dawn of old Edo, from rain-wet alleys and mossy wells, to silent samurai and hidden tea-houses, through the flickering light of the Yoshiwara, and at last to the calm hum of markets waking with the sun. Thank you for walking beside me, step by step, breath by breath, through shadows, stories, and soft lantern glow. Perhaps you listen to dream, to rest, or to remember that even in the busiest city, there are corners where silence lingers and history breathes. Edo has faded from the map, but not from memory. Its stones and timbers may be gone, yet its stories remain, waiting for quiet hearts to hear them. And as you drift further into rest, may you carry the hush of rain on wooden roofs, the warm glow of paper lanterns in mist, and the soft toll of a temple bell far away. Sleep well, traveler, and when next you wake, the city's quiet spirit may walk beside you still. Until we meet again, good night.